Is India's growth story too bitter for the International Monetary Fund? I'm being forced to ask this question. Case in point, the International Monetary Fund's big allegation. The IMF is accusing India's central bank, or the RBI, of excessive interference in the foreign exchange market. In other words, the IMF claims that the Reserve Bank of India is trying to influence the level of the rupee or manipulate its value. What's the basis of this allegation? The rupee's value between December 2022 and October 2023. The IMF is pointing at the fact that the currency moved within a very narrow range. It neither fell too sharply nor did it rise steeply. This, the IMF claims, is indicative of the RBI's intervention. The Washington-based lender has gone to the extent of reclassifying India's foreign exchange regime. In a report released on Monday, India has been classified not as a floating system, but a stabilized arrangement. What's the difference? You see, in a floating system, a currency's value is determined by the foreign exchange market based on the demand and supply of that particular currency. In contrast, in a stabilized arrangement or fixed regime, the government of a country, through its central bank, determines the rate of the currency. So where does India really sit? Let's talk facts. No country in the world sits back and watches its currency take a roller coaster ride. Full disclosure, every central bank intervenes. How can they do no? How can they not? It's a question of economic stability. It's about volatility. The allegation against the RBI is of excessive intervention. India's central bank is calling the IMF's assessment unjustified. For starters, the period that the IMF is basing its assessment on is too short. The RBI has told the IMF that it is using data selectively. Because if you look at the rupee's movement over 2 to 5 years, then the assessment and allegation both fall flat. In 2022, India's currency, the rupee, fell about 8% between December 2022 and October 2023. The rupee lost around 2% against the US dollar. Bloomberg estimates the RBI interfered to the tune of $78 billion through those 9 months. India's $604 billion foreign exchange reserves seem to tell a different story. Despite the intervention, India's import cover is still close to 2021's all-time high of $642.5 billion. What gives them? Was the IMF's assessment in bad taste? Is India's growth story not sitting well with the IMF? Contrast India's economy with that of America. One has repeatedly been called a bright spot. Another has repeatedly been predicted to slow down significantly. Banks have had to close down. Sensex and Nifty 50 are recording all-time highs. They are making global headlines. America, on the other hand, is making bad news. Here's one from an American media outlet. From powerhouse to afterthought, US Steel, once a symbol of America's economic might, set to be sold to a Japanese rival. See the stark contrast? The IMF assessment comes in the light of this. And let's not forget, the IMF's America bias is no secret. And the naysayers of India's growth story are plenty. Who is spying on Ukraine's military chief? Commander Valeriy Zaluzhnyi has found a rather covert listening device in one of his offices. He also hinted that other locations had also been bugged. Who is interested in what Zaluzhnyi discusses behind closed doors? While Russia may be the obvious answer, there could be more to the story. First, how was the device discovered? Well, it was during a routine sweep of the rooms that the military chief had been using. How long had the device been there? We don't know that yet. The Ukrainian Security Service, or SBU, has not disclosed much. Here's what it has revealed so far. Number one, the device was found at a location that could have been used by Zaluzhnyi, and not directly in his office. Number two, it had been inactive. And number three, there was no evidence of it recording any information. But that's not what Ukraine's top military official had to say. On Monday, Zaluzhnyi claimed that he was going to use the office later in the day. He also hinted at other locations being bugged. So from what it seems, the SBU has tried to downplay the situation. Former Deputy Defence Minister Anna Malyar has insisted that the discovery isn't particularly concerning. To back that up, has cited other instances of Ukrainian classified military information being leaked on social media. But how is normalizing this going to help? For all we know, it may have been an inside job. Reports say the device was made of untraceable parts. This has made identification of its origin nearly impossible. When asked if someone in the general staff could have done it, the military chief said no. He said, and I quote, "No, we have not worked with ears for a long time." But here's the thing. Zaluzhnyi and Zelensky's rivalry is not unknown. Media reports have time and again said that the president and the military chief have been at odds with each other. The Ukrainian government dismisses this as Russian propaganda. But what about what has happened in the public eye? The two leaders have openly clashed over conflicting assessments of the frontline situation in the war. Zaluzhnyi described the situation as a stalemate in early November. Zelensky outright denied his claims. Zaluzhnyi is a celebrated political figure in Ukraine. We can't forget that. He has a fair share of haters. His enemies have been eavesdropping on him to find some blackmail material. And they don't necessarily have to be from Russia. Considering the complicated relationships between Ukrainian officials, their Western backers and their Russian opponents, anyone could have tried to snoop on Zaluzhnyi. This is not the first time a Ukrainian official has become a target. The war moved on beyond the front lines long ago. The intelligence services of both Russia and Ukraine have been hyperactive since. Only last month, the wife of Ukrainian military spy chief was poisoned, as were several other Ukrainian intelligence officials. The spy chief himself has survived multiple assassination attempts. Earlier in November, the top aide to Ukraine's military chief received a live grenade in a birthday gift. He was killed as one of his presents exploded. There's snooping, there's poisoning, there's sending deadly birthday presents. The military chief says it's all part and parcel of being at war. The war has become highly political. And as for the battleground, nothing major is happening. The Ukrainian army has scaled back on the military operations due to ammunition shortfall. That too along the entire front line. That's what reports say. The US has also declared that it will run out of funding for Ukraine this month. That is, if Congress does not act on the aid package that has been stalled for weeks. So where is this war headed? What will happen next? There are no clear answers as of now. A couple of hours ago, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with his Israeli counterpart, Benjamin Netanyahu. Prime Minister Modi highlighted India's stand on the ongoing Gaza war. India is in favor of early restoration of peace. The conversation between the two leaders comes less than a week after India at the United Nations voted in favor of an immediate ceasefire. The Israeli Prime Minister thanked Prime Minister Modi for India's support in Israel's just war to destroy Hamas. I'm quoting. Now remember, the Israeli campaign against Hamas in the Gaza Strip has killed more than 19,000 Palestinians. Thousands of them are children. What's more, the 50,000 plus Gazans who have been injured in Israeli strikes are struggling to get even the basic medication for treatment. The health system in this tiny Palestinian enclave has totally collapsed, and this has renewed calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. As death and devastation grip Gaza, the most immediate ripple effect of this war is showing 1,000 miles away in the Red Sea. Here, global supply chains are once again under threat. You see, in recent weeks, Houthis have stepped up their attacks on ships passing through the Red Sea. They say this is in response to Israel's ongoing bombardment of Gaza. At first, they were targeting Israel-linked ships only, but of late, it seems all tankers, all cargo ships have come under attack. Houthis have launched drones as well as missile attacks from Yemen, and although the damage caused so far has been minimal, the threat alone has left the crucial trade route through the Red Sea at a near standstill. This reportedly featured in the conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Benjamin Netanyahu. According to the Times of Israel, the two leaders spoke about safeguarding free shipping. They acknowledged the threat posed by Houthis and the global interests in preventing harm to international trade, including the economies of Israel and India. The statement reportedly quotes Prime Minister Modi highlighting the need to protect the freedom of shipping. The conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Netanyahu comes on the day that the US announced a 10-nation force to protect the Red Sea. Let me explain. In response to the Houthi threat, a Red Sea patrol force has now been formed. It includes Bahrain, Canada, France, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Seychelles, Spain, the United Kingdom and the United States. Announcing the decision, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that this multinational security initiative seeks to uphold the foundational principle of freedom of navigation. The U.S. Defense Secretary said that the aim is to tackle the challenge posed by non-state actors. The Iran-aligned Houthis have ramped up their attacks in the strategic choke point called the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. It is part of the most densely packed shipping channel in the world. All ships that pass through the Suez Canal pass through this very strait in the southern entrance of the Red Sea. It accounts for about 12% of global trade. On Monday, the Houthis attacked a Norwegian-owned Swan Atlantic and the MSC Clara. They used naval drones for the attack. The first vessel had no link to Israel. It is reportedly managed by a Singaporean firm. So securing this particular strategic choke point has taken on a new sense of urgency. Everything, from the cost of petrol to the availability of the latest electronic device, it all depends heavily on the security of the Red Sea. Billions of dollars of trade goods pass through these waters. Any delay here, any disruption means disruptions around the world. According to reports, more countries could be included in the patrol force. Egypt and Jordan could join the security initiative. There's also the possibility of Saudi Arabia joining this coalition. In the meanwhile, at least 12 shipping companies have suspended transit through the Red Sea for obvious reasons. Today, UK oil giant BP became the latest firm to announce that it will avoid the waters altogether. Therefore, Houthi attacks have effectively rerouted a significant portion of global trade. Freight companies are now taking a longer route. They are sailing around the African continent just to avoid any possible Houthi attacks. What does this mean? Higher costs and longer delays. Food, energy, as well as consumer goods are going to be affected as a result. In light of these developments, will this US-led patrol force succeed in what it has set out to do? That's a big question, and we, of course, will be paying close attention to all the developments.